Hello, everyone. I'm Linda Nickell, and welcome to the Happiness Hour. This program is a meeting place that encourages photographers from all over the country to connect, inspire, and create. My guest speakers share tips, techniques, and the stories behind their photographs to help us all improve our photography skills. The schedule for upcoming presentations is on my website at lindanickell.com, as well as the links to previous sessions on the Happiness Hour YouTube channel. Tonight's guest is Sandra Zelasko. Sandy is a California-based nature photographer who's devoting a lot of her time and energy on wildlife conservation photography. Her work about the American bison received a highly honored award in Nature's Best magazine, and her dedicated research about the Salton Sea has led to her to share her program, the Salton Sea Story, History and Hope. Sandy is an active member of North American Nature Photographers Association. You'll know that as NAMPA, and the Photographic Society of America, in addition to hosting and guiding her own photography workshops. If you're on Instagram, you can find her at SLZ Photo, and you can connect with her through her website, investinnature.org. Sandy was here last fall to share session 124, the Salton Sea Project, which you can find on the YouTube channel. Welcome back to the Happiness Hour, Sandy.
It's great to be here again. I just enjoy everybody that chimes in, and your bubbly personality just keeps me smiling.
I just gurgle with happiness. Well, first of all, thank you for coming back. As always, I tend to, I try to do a little stalking, and I wade through people's bios, and they're about pages, and you had a pretty decent one. So thank you for that. But did I miss something? Is there something that you want to share? Feel free to.
No, not really. I put a little entry on before the Badlands program, and I'll just go through that, and nothing real spectacular. I don't like to talk about myself a lot, but I end up doing that when you ask.
I know. Well, no, that's okay. And you know what? This is the perfect time too, because it's about connection. It's not just about photography here. It's about connecting, and things that you share about yourself and your photography. Someone else in this room is sitting there going, ooh, me too. So I give you permission to do that. All right. With that, I'm going to let you get started.
Okay. So Linda started out, I'm investinnature.org. I've been this is my 31st year. I can't believe it, that I've completely ran my business on my own. So I'm really excited about that. 31st year. But at investinnature.org, you can find my galleries, you can find my list of workshops, you can follow along with me, subscribe to my what I call monthly newsletter, which doesn't get out but maybe once a quarter. So if you don't want to be bothered too much, it's I'm just busy all the time, and I don't get a chance to update that website a lot, but I do some. Anyway, I'm a nature photographer, pretty much conservation now based. I'm trying to lean it more in that direction every day. You can find me on Facebook right there at crazy4, the number 4 wildlife, and on Instagram at SLZ Photo, like Linda said. I'm internationally awarded. I've been published a few times over the last year. And I have a new article coming out in the PSA Journal, a shared article next month, if you're a member of the Photographic Society of America. And this was part of the Salton Sea program I did last year for Linda. I also like to just tell people, some people struggle with getting, with their images, and maybe they need just a little bit of help. And so with a friend of mine, another colleague, photographer colleague, Judge, we built Chicks Talking Pics. It's kind of a cute comedic like title. But we review images. It's about a 20-minute session every couple of weeks. And we try to give really positive feedback on how you might improve an image. So that's open for everybody. It's free. We are taking a couple of months off. Jenny's a ballooning in, she owns her own balloon and everything, and she'll be up in the Tetons taking people on balloon rides. So she's going to be quite busy for the next couple of months. And then I have a girlfriend, Christine Pence, and I, who are doing a conservation-based workshop or program, not workshop, but on the midland grouse species. So you guys may be familiar with the Atwater prairie chicken there in Texas, or some of the other grouse in the grouse family. But we have a blog that we like to tell people about, and just bring awareness to some of these birds that are on the endangered and vulnerable lists. So, but I know you're all here to come to see Badlands National Park. So enough about me. Let's talk about Badlands. It's actually one of my favorite parks to go to. And unfortunately this year, I think it was mentioned earlier that I lead for Arizona Highway Photoscapes. And they had to cancel the trip this year due to a low enrollment. So this is the first year in 10 years I haven't been there on a workshop this time of year. And I typically go in late May, early June for all the baby animals. So I don't have any new pictures from this year, but I did throw in some things from the last couple of years I've been there. So where is the Badlands National Park? Well, everybody, it's right above you. Just everybody from Texas. I know you're all mostly from Texas, but just look right above you and you will see South Dakota. And you see that little circle with the squiggly line in it. That little squiggly line is representative of the wall, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And that is in South Dakota. So it's just east of Black Hills, if you've ever been to the Black Hills up there too. So here is the park map that you get when you come in. They do a great job, the national parks do, with these maps. And so I like to use them because that's the first thing you're going to see, unless you're going to go buy a really detailed map about Badlands National Park. But for somebody that hasn't been there before and maybe your first visit, you'll use this map. So I'm going to kind of go through this map with you. So Badlands National Park was once under a shallow sea of water, and all the little dinosaurs roamed all over that area. There was a whole river called the Western Interior Seaway that covered the park, or that whole area up there in South Dakota, until about 55 million years ago, when the mountains started rising and we started getting mountains there. It's now kind of a rich fossil bed. So for those of you that are into paleontology, it might be a treat if you didn't know about that. It is surrounded by the second largest grassland prairie in the United States, and that covers about 600,000 acres. You can see up at the very top right, you can see it says Buffalo Gap National Grassland, and then you can follow that wording all around the park itself. It's kind of an interesting way they gave the lines, the property lines. It's kind of weird. You see, it's kind of boxy and choppy, and that whole little area of Badlands that you see in the upper right hand corner is where most of the geological oddities and photographic opportunities are. So the rest out in the Buffalo Gap National Grasslands is all ranching. Ranchers don't own it. There are a couple of inholdings, but there are also grasslands that their cattle use. So, it gets used anyway. Let's see. So Badlands National Park was actually a monument to begin with, and South Dakota Senator Norbuck in 1939 brought about the monument, and then President Carter in 78 2008, I think it was, he made it into a national park. So we're lucky to have it. I think it, even though it's not as big as I'd like it to be, you know, I think we need all the land we can get in national parks or national wildlife refuges, but we have what we have, so that's great. The park itself is about 244,000 acres. It's in 3 different units. So you can see up in the right-hand corner, it says Badlands National Park. That's the actual north unit. So think about this when you're looking. You're going to do most of your travel in the north unit. The lower left-hand corner is the stronghold unit. And there's a small little, to the right of that is the Palmer Creek unit. Both of those units you can see are surrounded by Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. And this park is co-managed with the Ogallala Sioux. So it's a very interesting co-management process, but it's successful. I would not ever expect to get permission to visit the Palmer Creek unit. It is surrounded, again, like I said, by Pine Ridge Reservation, and probably not, I think you can hike in with permission, but I've never even tried to get permission. I don't think I'll ever go there. I don't think I'd feel comfortable or safe going there myself. However, I have ventured onto the Stronghold unit, and there is Sheep Mountain Table that is on top of that unit. It's probably about 3,200 feet, not real high, but it's kind of got some nice views into the Badlands area for that unit. And it is a dirt road that's drivable when it's not wet and not rainy. So you would think midsummer, then it's dusty, but you'll see a couple pictures from that unit later. The north unit, though, is the one I'm going to talk about today. And I'll just point out the 2 visitor centers. So if you see my cursor, there's the Ben Raphael Visitor Center. That is the most popular one that's in that north unit. And then down, if you're coming in from the south, the White Rivers Visitor Center is the Sioux Visitor Center. It's got some nice artifacts and things that you can see there. Not always open, though. I found it open maybe in my 10 years of visiting there, maybe twice. But then again, I do go earlier in the season. I never go in the summer. It's usually too hot for, travel in the summer there at Badlands. Although if you're in an air-conditioned car, but I'm not, because I want to go out and take pictures. So anyway, I stay away in the summer. Okay, so let's look at the next slide, and let's just take a better look at that north unit. So you can see up at the top there's a little town called Wall. It's got a little yellow thing here, but it's up here where my cursor is. And that is probably where most people stay. That's where I bring my workshops and we stay there. There's several hotels there. There's eateries. There's the famous Wall drugstore, if you've ever heard of that. If you haven't, then just Google it because it's kind of fun. And then from Wall, let's talk about routes to see the park. You can go south from Wall about on 240, Highway 240, down to the Pinnacles entrance, which is right here. And Pinnacles is a great place to start your day and end your day. It's got great views of anywhere in that little area within a couple of miles from the actual overlook. It's got great Badlands scenes. You can get morning sunrise, you can get late afternoon, you can get backlit subjects. It's really kind of a great place to start your visit. So you can travel down south on 240 and then through the park on that red Badlands Loop Road that you see my little cursor going, and you can get all the way out to the northeast entrance, which is right here, follow 240 back up to 90, and then come home to Wall if you're staying in Wall. And I'm going to show you a couple other places to stay too, or you can do that route backwards too. and it's really, if you're going to travel it, the actual route from Pinnacle's entrance to Northeast entrance is about 38 miles. So it's not big, but you want to give yourself a lot of time. And I would suggest anytime you go there, well, maybe winter might be an exception, but anytime you go, you're going to be photographing early morning and late evening. The middle of the day, the Badlands just wash out. They're just not enough definition. So, you can concentrate on more intimate landscapes in that area. And that time during the day, you can go to the visitor center, you can go back to Wall and shop at the drugstore, whatever you want to do. But for me, my workshops, or whenever I go, I'm out at dark 30, and I'm probably back to Wall by 11. And then I go out again about 4 o'clock, and then I usually go this time of year. And so I would be out probably till about 9, this time of year. So you've got, a good 6 hours in the morning, 5 hours, 5 or 6 hours in the evening, depending on when you want to go out. That's kind of typical for my, visits to Badlands National Park, and the best times to photograph. So the other way you can go is take Wall, and you can come down all the way to 40 into Pinnacle's park, and then you'll hit the main road, but you want to make a right-hand turn and go across Sage Creek Rim Road and follow that all the way through the park. That's about 23 miles, and it's all dirt. That's all dirt. The other road, the Badlands Loop Road, is all paved, but the Sage Creek Rim Road is all dirt. Now, that's where all the animals are, though. So not all of them, but most of the animals are on the Sage Creek Rim Road. I mean, it's just stocked full of bison and the occasional pronghorn and things like that we'll talk about today. But there are some campgrounds I want to make you aware of, and Sage Creek Campground is out here at almost the out of the park end of the road here. It's Sage Creek is a first come, first serve primitive campground. There are pit toilets there, and there is horse access. So you can go on horse trails. Kids love, a lot of families go there. It's, I think it's free. I don't even think there's a charge to camp there. I can't remember that, so don't quote me on that, but people ride their bikes, and it's really fun for a couple of other reasons too. And I'll tell you that when I'm showing pictures. So that's one campground that you can get by with that's fairly inexpensive, and you're still in the park, but you don't have those big walls that you're going to see in a minute here. Now let's go down here to the eastern part of the park, and let's start here at the freeway. Cactus Flat is a little town that's right off the freeway. There is camping there. There's a little hotel there. And since 2001, okay, I went in 2022. So 2022, it was open. So a lot of these things you're going to have to check to make sure they're open, some of these smaller campgrounds. So that would be one I would check on. And Cactus Flat, it's called Cactus Flat Campground. And then you can come into the park that way, and you can end up at Cedar Pass Lodge down here in the lower right-hand corner. It's close to the visitor center. There are cabins there that you can reserve at, it's through cedarpasslodge.com. It's not through recreation.gov. Some people think it is because there's a campground there that will take RVs, and there's about 96 sites, but you have to book them through cedarpasslodge.com. Don't go to Reserve America, like a lot of the national parks and stuff require you to do. And then let's see, down here at the very end, there's the interior entrance. And there's a hotel there. I don't even know if it was open last year, but you might find some lodging in that area too. Let me see, do I have on my notes? No, I don't have the name of that hotel. I think it's called Badlands Inn though. So, so you might make a note of that. You might call and find out. or call the park. They'll have a list of these things too, I'm sure, or the Chamber of Commerce or something like that. Let's see. Okay, I think we've kind of beat this to death. Let's go on to the next slide. And actually, what you're there for is this. If you're a landscape photographer, you've hit the jackpot. If you're a wildlife photographer, you've hit the jackpot. There's both worlds are there. You know, this is called the wall. Now, the wall, and if I go back, let me go back one. You see this odd shaped national park. That wall runs all the way through the national park. And a matter of fact, it runs way beyond the park, and it runs out a little bit further north of the park, or northwest of the park. So it's about 100 miles of this kind of wall. So if you want to get away from crowds, you might go a little further south on I-90 and dip down and find the wall in Kadoka. Kadoka. And it's a little town kind of east of the park. Takes about 30 minutes to get there. And there's some entry ways to get there into these Badlands area from other roads off of I-90 if you go east. And a little bit if you go west also. But anyhow, that's what I'm talking about. So this wall, it's not really one wall. It's in some places it is one wall. A lot of places it's multiple walls like you're seeing here. You're free to walk out there and photograph anything you want. There are no really restrictions. If you come across a rancher's gate or the boundary line, there'll be a notice. You'll see that you're gone too far. But you can go out there and get pictures that nobody else has ever had. Oh yeah, one more thing I want to say about that is your National Park Pass, it works there. The America the Beautiful Pass, your senior passes, it's 30 days for $30 for 7 days in there. I think that's probably, oh yeah, one more thing. I mentioned paleontology earlier. If you visit the Ben Raphael Visitor Center during the summer months, they have a paleontology lab there, where you can see them working on bones and everything. And interestingly enough, there are no dinosaurs in this park or around this park. They haven't found any dinosaurs, but they have found rhinoceros. They've got saber-toothed cats. They have found the fish of all kinds, those kind of fossils. And there's a place called the Pig Dig Quarry, and you technically can't take anything out of the park, but you can still wander around that area and see fossils that are sticking out of the ground. After a rain, this park is actually losing 1 inch of height every year due to erosion. So, they get some rain, things erode, you might find some new things out there if you're looking, if you're into that kind of thing. And it's fun to photograph too, and there's always good landscapes around. So let's talk about black-tailed prairie dogs. So interesting, these little critters are just adorable, and they're so fun to shoot. Some of you may not think so, but and ranchers do not think so. Ranchers do not like prairie dogs because they do a number on the environment, but they are also a keystone species for the Great Plains. They do dig burrows or enlarge burrows or whatever's needed for their families, to grow their families. They are the food source for the endangered black-footed ferret, for hawks, for coyotes, for owls, for anything that happens to see them on the ground. And once that happens, you'll have a blast because they have alarm calls, which look like this. These are fun to try to capture, right? As photographers, we're looking for action, trying to tell a story with our images. And if you can get a prairie dog in this position, just kind of, they squeal. I'm going to encourage you to go and Google prairie dog sounds. They have the most vocalizations that any mammal has in the United States. I'm going to say in the United States. I'm not sure if that would be all over the world, but they have quite an extensive communication system with each other. And this is just one that's called the alarm call. They lift their little paws up and they jump up in the air and they squeak like crazy. So at that point, look up, see if there's a hawk coming in, see if there's a coyote racing over, see if there's something that is going to grab one of those prairie dogs for a meal. So let me just say that. And this area in Badlands National Park is actually, and I don't have a picture of a black-footed ferret, but it's the most successful reintroduction site for black-footed ferrets. A girlfriend of mine who lives in Wall, she said she was out the other day. This was a little earlier, a couple of months ago, and she finally got pictures of a black-footed ferret coming out of a burrow. So I was really happy for her because I haven't got that yet. And so these little guys, they do this. You can see this picture. They're chewing. This little young one is chewing on the paw of another one. And that is actually a greeting kind of gesture. And it's also kind of a smell gesture to make sure you're with the right family. Here's one of those images where, a magpie is disturbing this coyote who's hunting in this prairie dog type of thing. So another story with pictures that, I try to do that. And the reason I go in June, early June, late May, early June, is that's when that's when all the babies in the park are out and about. Just about every species I've ever got there has been in that time of year for a baby species. So these are young prairie dogs just having a blast there, just, playing around, roly-polying. And that's really what you want to capture. They're so fast, though. So these new mirrorless cameras are going to be just great in, 30 frames a second and stuff like that. And then they come together and they just have this little cute little meeting with their little noses together and stuff. And so watch your depth of field on that. Even though these were very close and I was at probably an F5.6 or 6.3 on this, I still don't have that prairie dog in the front tack sharp. So, it happens. We all work on it. And the way I got this background, or this color in the background, I should say, is because when I take my students or clients in the workshop, we go out to the Sage Creek campground, and there are tents all over the place. And the tents are sometimes colorful, sometimes they're not. And you lay down on your belly and you think, and you try to get the shots with the clear background like that. Well, this tent, I just use a shallow depth of field and the tent just fell off. It was way far off in the background. And so I've got that nice orange green kind of color in the background. But now don't do this everywhere. In the campground at Sage Creek, the biologists will come out and spray. It's not a spray, it's a powder-like form to kill the fleas. And fleas carry bubonic plague. So I don't want you to think you can lay on the ground everywhere there's a prairie dog town. But I do know for a fact that in the Sage Creek campground, because these prairie dogs are all around people, they're very acclimated and they are, they've got rid of the fleas in that area. So on my blog, on my Facebook, on my website, investednature.org, I do a little story about that. So you can read a little bit more about that. So that's how I got that beautiful color in the background. And then this one I called Pipsqueaks of the Prairie. And, you got to work at getting more than one or two prairie dogs in your frame, right? It's tough. They're running around. They're crazy. They're having fun. They're little babies. But Unfortunately, I was at an F11 or F16 or something because I was doing something completely different when these three prairie dogs came out in front of me. And so I don't like the background of this one. Other than that, I just can't pass it up. It's just too cute. So I, you always look for something like that. It's like Manny, Mo, and Jack, right? Those are the kind of backgrounds I'm looking for, and I encourage everybody to get. So, your big prime lenses. Actually, most of these images were taken with a 500 f4 lens. So, creamy backgrounds, just, you can't beat it. This is a nice little plump, fat mama prairie dog. And luckily she was up on a little rise and I didn't have to lay on my belly. I shot right from the car on this one. Background was really nice and far away. Now there is some white prairie dogs. Now, I don't know how much weight to give these white prairie dogs, but you can find them just outside of the park at the, oh, doggone it, it's the Prairie Homestead. And it's a little community, not community, it's a little property where the first sod farm in South Dakota still stands. And so you have to pay to get in that farm to walk around the property and see that. But from the parking lot, they've got a whole colony of white prairie dogs, which are not found like very rarely anywhere else in the United States. So I always stop there and shoot from the parking lot and use sometimes a 500, sometimes a 300. They come right up. People do feed them, which is unfortunate, but they are acclimated and they're just doggone, they're cute. They're just cute. Okay, so enough about prairie dogs. I want to talk about some of the other animals that you'll find there. And like I said, I'm a wildlife photographer, so this is wildlife focused somewhat. We'll get to landscapes here before I'm through. But badgers, good place to see badgers. So watch prairie dog towns for badgers for a bigger mound than what the prairie dogs are making. So if you find a nice prairie dog town and you see this big mound in it, and no prairie dogs around, look for badgers. Okay, so they're around. I see them up Quinn Road. I see them in other places in the park too. Not often, but they're there. And then the prairie rattler is there too. So I don't want you to think you can, wear some, if you're going in summer, when the weather's warm, wear some snake gaiters or something like that if you're going off-road. If you're in the parking lots and the overlooks, and you don't need them there. Although this is one that was right off the boardwalk that if some little kid was running around and was losing his balance and he stepped off the boardwalk for a second, that would not be a good thing. So just keep an eye out for prairie rattlers. I've been almost every month of the year, or every season, I should say every season of the year, to Badlands National Park. My favorite is when the baby animals are out, but winter is really spectacular too. First of all, you can see the tracks of, and follow your subjects a lot easier. There are western and eastern cottontails in the park. Jackrabbits, these are white-tailed jackrabbits. That's the only thing I think I've ever seen out there. These cute little chipmunks, right? The least chipmunks are all over the place. Just watch for them. This little bird was attacking this one on the left, and then just on the boardwalk, this one, I followed it down the boardwalk until it did something interesting. And then, a little play, just like the prairie dogs. On some mud that was in the park somewhere, probably over by door window notch. Now that's a location, so I'll talk about that in a little bit. There's some mud like this that you can see these little chipmunks. So just cute. I haven't seen too many marmots there, although this one was taken a couple of years ago. So I'm not going to say there are marmots there in numbers, but you just watch out because you may see a yellow belly marmot. Coyotes, of course, we've already seen that. They are always looking for a meal in the prairie dog towns. Oh, by the way, in the prairie dog towns, you'll find burrowing owls. Usually they're often quite a distance, and they're so small that it's rare that I ever photograph them, but you can see them. Bring some binoculars. This is just off of, just about in the middle of the park. It flattens out a little bit there. You go through a little flattened out area, and then the wall starts up again. So, more coyote. Porcupine. I saw probably, a few porcupine there I have over the years. This one's in winter. You can tell it was on the move, that's for sure. And then in those cottonwood trees, there's cottonwood trees that in the fall just are beautiful there. So, and then in the winter, they're bare. So you can find the porcupines a lot easier when, there's no leaves on these trees. And they're up in the trees eating bark. So, it's not unlikely you'll see one, but you keep your eye open. A lot of people look on the ground for animals, but keep your eye open into some of the trees. Another place, one of the overlooked basins, let's see, the Kanata Basin overlook, I've seen porcupine there in those cottonwood trees. Pronghorn. So Pronghorn right there in a prairie dog town. It's likely to see them there. This is a nice buck, and probably a yearling, maybe, I don't know, maybe one of his, who knows. But a younger buck, maybe a little bit younger, and not quite the horns aren't quite as tall. But let me just tell you, if you didn't know this, that those sheaths on those horns for these pronghorn, they lose those every year. And underneath they're like the only one that does. Horns on bighorn sheep stay all year. Horns on other animals stay. Antlers, of course, drop, but horns do not usually. This is one species where the horn does drop off. It's hollow inside, and it's got when you see a pronghorn that has two white, like little horns or little cartilages sticking up from his head, it's most likely a buck that has these, that's lost its horns. Here's a couple of young pronghorn, twins, most likely, because they're staying together, and they look like twins. I don't know, my guess anyway, probably a good guess, but and another buck you can see here. You can see them off in the distance. They like the grassland areas best because they'll be eating, grasses and stuff. It's the mixed grass prairie in these in the Buffalo Gap grasslands. White-tailed deer, you can find those around town, in the farmers' fields, in just outside of the Badlands boundary. Mule deer. So mule deer fawns are dropped right around June 1st. I don't know enough about fawns, but I do know the pronghorn fawns drop about the same time, the beginning of June, and the pronghorn will hide their babies for about a week. And then those babies will come out. So if you're looking for pronghorn babies, you might start looking around after the first week of June for those. Bison, again, I said mixed grass prairie, same. This is just its original mixed grass prairie. It hasn't been plowed. It had, maybe some of it, maybe a few sections of it, but for the most part, it is intact mixed grass prairie. And the American bison do take advantage of that. So this is out by Sage Creek campground. In that area, there's bison galore out there. And really, you can get some really nice shots, close-up shots. Just stay in your car. Bison are pretty dangerous to, for the most part. And this is the image that actually won the honorary award in Nature's Best. I don't think it's that great, but I guess the story I wrote with it helped it along. So anyway, that's things you can get. Again, when the day gets hot, look for intimate details and smaller subjects, and not the big badlands subjects and stuff. Like here, those are flies all over a bison who is actually shedding. So again, looking for stories. And then these are the kind of things in the spring you can get. The grasses are green. Of course, the grasses are going to get golden when it gets into summer and fall. So, but you will find baby bison again, that same time I'm talking about, beginning of June. This one still has its umbilical cord just ready to probably fall off. And this was taken, I think this was probably March or April. So out in the Sage Creek Rim Road area. So there are a lot of bison out there. Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep. The big boys are not everywhere all the time, but the ewes and lambs, I can almost guarantee you, first part of June, you're going to see a ton of them. Here are some of the big boys we've run into over the years. This is what you don't want to do. This was only probably maybe a 4-year-old ram. This one here, he's getting up there in age. He was just rubbing his belly. He had just just getting up from a rest in the grass. And I don't disturb animals. I'm very ethical when I'm in the field. So if I have to wait an hour for this bighorn to get up, I will. Because once you have some, what is it? If you have something in your hand, don't leave for another place. I can't remember what the saying is on that, but I don't leave an animal when I have one to think I'll get a better one down the road. I don't. And I kind of run my workshops the same way. So we do have a lot of downtime when we're waiting on an animal to do things. Winter scene there in the Badlands, it's just 2 ewe that are off on a cliff there. I was playing around with the backlit through the horns. I don't know how successful that was, but I thought I'd share it. But here's the exciting part. This is, okay, I'm going to tell you exactly where this is, and you guys will just die when you go there. It's at Pinnacles. It's at the Pinnacles Overlook. Oh my gosh, that is the big nursery for all the baby bighorn sheep. It is incredible. It was incredible. Let me say that. 2 years ago, they had a die-off, a major bighorn die-off, because they believe it was some of the rams that got into domestic sheep herds that some of the farmers or ranchers have out on the plains. And they brought back pneumonia to the whole herd. And so 2 years ago, there was about 50 babies that you could count on for multiple years. Probably the first 8 years I photographed there. You could count on about 50 babies. Last year, my workshop went there, and the last day of the workshop, we had 1 baby, and that was all. This year, I'm going to try to reach out to the biologist there. I meant to do that before this workshop, but I didn't get to it, and ask how they're doing this year. I don't know, but they are, this is actually a mom, a ewe. She's collared. That year that I took this picture a couple of years ago, no, actually 3 years ago, maybe, they went in, and within that first week where the bighorn sheep had their lambs, they collared a lot of lambs. And these collars you'll see on next couple of shots. You'll notice the mom is collared, and the baby has this expandable little collar on it. And the collars are pink, and some of them are blue. So if you know what I mean, I think that's what they use them for, to just determine sex, but I don't know that for sure. So anyhow, very, very, very cute. These were some that were not collared. So it's possible if they do another collaring, another project like that, they will collar again, or they haven't collared for the last, they didn't collar last year and they didn't collar the year before. So here's another one with that little pink band and that antenna on there. But to me, it adds to the story. And I'm not sure that you could actually, you'd have to check with PSA rules. Some rules are very strict, no hand of man, but otherwise, it tells a good story, I think. And again, with this bouncing little lamb, they're just so doggone cute that I just can't get over. I love them. Backlit at Pinnacles Overlook. You want to be there in the evenings, because now this doesn't happen in fall. Okay, they're gone. They're dispersed. They're out and about. This only happens. You know what? I would say your best bet is the first 2 weeks in June. That you'll find these baby bighorn at Pinnacles. Again, nighttime. This is night. We've got a nice sunset, so I just put this little baby, in front of a sunset. And the next one is I'm going to try to show you. Oh, one more. This is how close we were to them. It probably says in the rules that you can't be this close, but they're very docile. I've never heard of any dealing, hurting anybody there in the park. This was some of my group in the background that you see here. But this is kind of what happens. So I hope everybody was seeing that video. They're just so doggone cute. So, okay, birds. There are a lot of birds in the park, mostly western meadowlarks. They will actually scare you when you're driving by with your window open. They're so loud and they're so close, and sometimes you don't see them because they're in the grasses. A lot of times they're in the grasses. When you can find them on anything like this agave or whatever, stop and see if you get lucky enough that they're tolerant enough that you can shoot them from your car. I wouldn't get out and walk out because you'll scare them off. But anyway, so this western meadowlarks are, this was along one of the dirt roads, and he was just stretching. Flickers, so red-shafted flicker, northern flicker, they love ants, right? So they'll be on the ground most of the time. You can catch them flying in the air too, and perching in a tree once in a while. There are not very many trees out in the Badlands, but there are some. But there, you want to look on the ground for the flickers. Wild turkey, that was probably taken a little bit later in the year. I'm thinking it might be early fall, something like that. I threw that flower in there. I have no idea why I threw that in this page, but there it is. Once in a great while, you'll see bald eagles. So don't expect to see them there. Once in a great while. Here we have upland sandpipers. They're pretty common out in the area, especially out in the Sage Creek area, or any of the roads that you drive around. If you don't want to stay in Badlands, or you've got a week out there and you want to see something different, just take a road north and go up to Cottonwood and Old Ghost Town, or just kind of play around in the area. You'll see what I mean. I just warn you, don't go south too far onto the reservation. I've just had locals warn me that it's probably not a smart thing to do. Not that if I was with somebody, maybe I would do that, but I travel on my own a lot. And so when I'm not with a workshop group, I'm out scouting. So I would say, just be careful about that. So we have upland sandpiper, long-billed curlews. We've got killdeer on the left. We've got Wilson's phalaropes on the right. When they get enough rain and some of the ponds fill up, you'll see this. You'll see the cattails start growing, and they will be there through spring. Then they, of course, dry up again. So those, I think those both were taken along Kanata Road and out towards almost Highway 44, which is a ways out there on a dirt road, but if there's water, then I would go there. These are actually sharp-tailed grouse. I mentioned earlier, my girlfriend and I are doing some conservation measures for grouse all over the world. Grouse, prairie chicken, all that kind of stuff all over I'm sorry, not the world, but the US. And these are sharp-tailed, and that's a sharp-tail in winter. And okay, so now we're into a little bit of the scenic landscape stuff that most of you probably shoot. And I left it for last, so you guys would have to sit through everything else. No, I didn't. I wasn't trying to be mean. But anyway, it's probably the least thing I do. I don't shoot a lot of landscapes, but I do know where to find them because I'm with a lot of people out there sometimes. So these are just really neat little places. This is down by the Ben Raphael Visitor Center, actually right across from it. This is out in near Yellow Mounds. And oops, sorry, that was a winter shot, and I just loved where the light fell on this winter shot. So long story about the winter thing, make sure that there's no advisories in the park, and if there is, stay out. My husband and I got stuck there and had to be hauled out in the winter because of slick roads. So it was not a good situation. Anyway, Sage Creek Rim Road on the left, there are time of day, color of the dirt, the dirt, this eroding mountains are all sorts of colors out there. There's, like I said, you've heard me mention Yellow Mounds, and there's some beautiful peachy colored stuff. The one on the right is the Pinnacles Overlook again. That's without any bighorn sheep there, but see, you can still photograph it. This was, I like to use long range telephoto for most of my photographs of landscapes. So that you might be wondering. Here's another, just the lines, the trickles of water that have gone through the dirt and stuff. The light there always changes. It's just, I mean, I watched that shadow hit the first rocks, the second set of rocks. It went back beyond there. It went beyond even further. Just beautiful. You can shoot off quite a few landscapes with that. Here you get a little more intimate. Moon came up. Burns Basin Overlook. We had a moon rise one year, and well, it still comes up there. But anyway, so it was really pretty, purpley and all that stuff. This, I believe, was from Burns Basin, but I can't be sure. I can't remember one of my clients there, but these are the kind of scenes that you're going to be photographing in, where you can walk out on these, so far. You can't, I mean, you don't want to get down in the gully and have it this late at night, but, just got to be careful, use common sense. Taken in the middle of the day, not a great shot with the polarizer. So I threw this one in because I wouldn't recommend a polarizer at this place. It just seems to be so unnatural. These are milk vetch plants in front. Makes for a good foreground, but I should have been there a different time of day. Here's Yellow Mounds in the winter. Beautiful there. It's right off the road. I mean, a paved road you're on. You can see this kind of stuff. Again, this is the Yellow Mounds Overlook. You just wait for the skies. You wait for, a sense of scale. I've got one of my clients that walked down into the field and left him in there because I wanted to show the scale of this mound. This is out Quinn Road. I wouldn't recommend driving out there, especially if it's wet. So I stopped. You can see the ruts in there. I didn't have a real high clearance vehicle. So, but the clouds were just spectacular. So here we are getting into some evening landscapes. And my point is, use a foreground or use something to anchor your photo and, look for those skies. This is really not enhanced. I might have done a little contrast on it, but I mean, I'm telling you, the skies out there. And if you really want, if you're into monsoon season, go later in the year, later in the summer. That's when a lot of the big landscape photographers go. like Ian Plant goes in late summer or maybe July, sometime in that area. And you really can find some beautiful skies there, even during the winter. This is a winter shot. Winter, again, just the colors are just phenomenal. So there's a one pullout, a very large, not a pullout, not an overlook. It's a big parking lot with nice, fairly nice pit toilets and everything. But this is the Notch Trail. It's a short trail from here. There is longer trails. There's lots of hiking in the park. So feel free to get on foot and find images that I've never found. So next to the Notch Trail, this is in this parking lot, there's the Door Trail and there's the Window Trail. So all of these trails, or these, some of them are handicap accessible, and some are like within 50 feet of the road. So, just go play around in those areas, but look at all the, the really fine detail of these really sharp pinnacles. There is a place called the Toadstool Rock, and it's hard to find. It's right off the road. It's, again, probably 100 feet from the road. You got to kind of shimmy down a little off the side of the road. So wear good hiking shoes anywhere you go in here. Do not hike if it's wet, because all you will get is clumps of clay on the bottom of your shoes. I've been there, believe me. Make sure it's not wet anywhere you go in the park if you're going to go off into the off-road somewhere and hike. But anyway, we had a full moon. Unfortunately, this time I went down to Toadstool Rock, and from a different perspective, Toadstool. And this is just during the day with an iPhone, right? Toadstool Rock. I put some birds in, I put a texture on it, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that's available. That line that you see right up here is the road. So that road is very close. Then we're winding down here. We're getting into the stronghold unit of Badlands National Park. Again, the National Park Service will tell you need permission to go here, but I find that I've never gotten permission here. Maybe they'll kick me off one day. I don't know. But the road in is a long dirt road, and you go up into those mountains, or that wall that you see in the background here. And you do have some driving on 2-track. So you don't want to have just a passenger car. You might need something. You don't really need a Jeep, but maybe a 4Runner or something like that. It has a little bit of clearance. Only if it's dry. Again, anywhere out here, if it's wet, don't do it. Like AAA won't come get you. They wouldn't save me in the winter when I was sliding off the cliff. My car was sliding off the cliff, so they wouldn't save me. So I don't think they're going to come out and save anybody else. Anyway, there are these kind of formations that are, out there. Again, overlooks of the Badlands, bluebird, western bluebird. I can't doggone it for the life of me. I can't remember the name of this plant, but it's all over the place. And so anyhow, it's kind of fun to photograph. It's almost like a giant dandelion. But some of these mud encased, these are all, you can find these at Stronghold. You can find them at other places in the park too, but the Stronghold unit is a good place to wander. And then a few slides to kind of finish off. If you're at Badlands and you're maybe, done photographing everything you think you can photograph, I'm telling you, you're not done. There's lots more. So just keep looking. Or if you want to try, your spouse is done with the area, maybe you'll go over to Wall, Scenic, Wind Cave, Custer, Needles, Mount Rushmore, Rapid City. So here are just a few images from those places that I'll share with you that I encourage everybody to go to. We don't go to all of these on my workshops, but they are kind of fun places to see in the area. This is Wall. It's got some beautiful grain towers that you can see on the right over there. And occasionally they've got some great graffiti and trains that come through. But I love this one. This is an evening shot. Just to the left of this is a beautiful RV park. This is where I stay when I go. It's called Sleepy Hollow RV Park. Anyway, Google Sleepy Hollow. And it's just it doesn't have all the amenities you might want, but it is a big, nice park. You know, I mean, they cut the grass and you're in gravel roads, and they're pretty level. So I would recommend there. They're very nice. This is a guy at Wall, one of those the Wall Drug, one of those booths, and this is the library on the right hand side, and this is just some equipment sitting out along the streets of Wall. You can walk all the streets in a day. There's not very much there to see in town except for the Wall Drug and maybe, you know, some fun stuff, you know, around it. This is the town of Scenic, and it's actually a ghost town. The population there last year was 4. Yes, you heard me right. 4 people, and they have a post office. So, so if you need any gear shipped to Scenic, maybe you're going to, you know, rent a lens. You could have it shipped to Scenic. That would be the talk of the town, right? Anyways, so Scenic is a weird little one strip ghost town that has you know, some strange stuff happening there. There's lots of old buildings. Some of it says you can't go in it, but there are a couple of jails that are in Scenic that I love. This is one of them. And this picture was taken, my girlfriend and I were there scouting. 2 guys drove up in a car. This guy had a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. I said, would you mind getting in that jail and shutting the door and I can take a picture of you? He goes, oh, sure. He had his shirt open and everything. I just thought it was perfect for the jail scene. And since that picture's been taken, somebody's graffitied all behind him in the back of it's a small little box. It's a small little iron box, but big enough for probably, you know, a dozen people to sit down comfortably. This is the other jail. And this jail is spectacular because you can go in it. It's small. It's only maybe a 250 square foot, maybe, you know, really small, maybe 400 square foot. I don't know, somewhere right in that vicinity. It's got a couple of rooms, 2 like jail cells with the doors still on, but it's got tumbleweed. It changes every year I'm there. That table has been standing, not standing. It's knocked over, blah, blah, blah. Tumbleweeds here, there. There's some old beds in these 2 jail cells. A fun place, concrete walls, leading lines, you know, fun stuff in there. So don't miss Scenic. Wind Cave National Park, I think, has probably the most wildlife of all of the parks in the Black Hills. So this is now we're talking in the Black Hills or closer, so west of Badlands National Park. And Pronghorn in the rut, I stop at every campground and look to see if there are, you know, people leave crumbs. What kind of wildlife eat crumbs? Almost everything, right? So got robins and red squirrels, you know, deer here and there. This was up in the Black Hills. You're wandering through. This was again Wind Cave National Park. Campground on the right. The bunnies are always in the campgrounds, early morning, late evening again. And this monster muley just kind of showed up. I don't like the scene. I don't like the background, but it was all I could get. But I thought it was a pretty nice rack. Custer State Park. I'm not a fan anymore. I liked it years and years ago when I first started going to it, maybe 30 years ago. But nowadays, the fencing, they've got so much fencing and so many people visit, but you can still get some good shots there, you know, wildlife or donkeys, right? I don't know if you've heard about the donkeys there, but they do beg. So if you have apples or whatever, people feed them all the time. It'll keep them out of your car if you can give them something to eat. The Needles District, that's up there in the Black Hills. And it's a kind of a weird road system if you've never been there. But it's fun to travel, and you'll find something new at every turn. But anyhow, that's Needle's Eye on the right. Mount Rushmore, just a different view of it on the left. And then this sign is probably gone now. I didn't see it last year, or maybe I missed it. But all 43 presidents are for sale. So anyway, that used to be where that property used to be where all those busts of all the presidents you used to be able to go through and walk through that area. And now all those busts had been moved to, I think, Illinois, somewhere, not in South Dakota anymore. I don't even know if they're still standing anywhere, but anyhow, that was kind of fun. What I really, I'm a wildlife photographer at heart, but I really love quaint little towns and stuff like that. And this town, Rapid City, because some of you might fly into Rapid City, rent a car, drive to Wall, if you're not driving to Wall. And so Rapid City's got some great downtown areas, and they have, I don't think they have Obama or Trump yet bronze on the corner, but they have every president from number 1 through 42 or 3 or whatever that is on the corners of downtown. And you can go and see all of these and make your little stories up or whatever you want to do. These two are probably right in middle of downtown. And then last year I took clients out and gave them an assignment: photograph the back of the heads of the presidents, or photograph this or that, or show me their hands or their feet or something. We did a little assignment in Rapid City before we started the workshop, and I thought it was really kind of fun. You can see a couple of the participants there on the left. Anyway, there's also an alley that they call Art Alley, where you have to get a permit to paint, but this changes all the time. So when you're in Rapid City, go to Art Alley. It's only 1 block, and it's really pretty fun to photograph, and just see, people are really good graffiti artists out there. Dinosaur Park, more for the kids, but kind of fun to go, hike around. It's a good hiking area. It's got lots of hiking levels, so you're walking uphill and downhill. So if you don't like that, don't go there. Rapid City, the reptile gardens are fun. I found it very hard to photograph there in a bright sunny sky. There was too many shadows and conflicting sun and all. Sometimes you can make use of that, but sometimes it's just really frustrating when you're trying to photograph. But they do have a lot of animals in there to see. So it's a cute little area you can spend a little time in. Again, just outside of the South Dakota, outside of the town, you can find all these fun things to photograph. So we talked, somebody mentioned sunflowers earlier, and this place in summer, South Dakota is known for its sunflower fields. So, and that's later in summer, where you're not going to find the babies, but you're going to find great, sunflower fields and stuff. This is out Sage Creek Rim Road past the border. So you can actually take that whole road out and down to Scenic, and then come back along 44 and go back up into Wall. So you can make a loop of that another day. I always stop at cemeteries, Another place you find animals a lot, because they're nice and quiet places, to photograph. And up in the Spearfish area, Rough Lock Falls State Natural Area, great place typically in fall. If you're going to go there in fall, there's a lot of beautiful trees that will turn color up there. And this is kind of my parting shot, just 2 little swallows in a window somewhere. I don't really know where I was. I don't know if I could even find that again, but I just enjoyed those two little swallows. And I want to thank everybody for attending. If you need to get a hold of me, if you have questions, I know Robert probably will get back with me, but call me or Facebook me or message me or whatever. I don't mind. I love helping people find things. I mean, I give away my secrets all the time. Anyway, have fun, and I'll stop my share and we can go back to Linda.
Yay, perfect. Okay. I love that you're sharing all your secrets because we don't keep secrets here on this program. That's the whole point. We want all the secrets. Okay, so I've got two questions. Well, one's a question, hoping it'll trigger your memory. Kevin wants to know, are those big giant dandelions called goat's beard by chance?
Oh, that's what they're called.
Great. Yay. Kevin gets an A+. Okay, so I've got one question here. Supa asked, well, actually, she says, love the wildlife part. I photograph both landscape and wildlife. She's headed to the Badlands in September for landscape and now is wondering, should I have opted for wildlife? So her question is, any suggestions or watch outs, quote unquote, watch outs for September that they need to keep in mind?
So the bighorn males, so the bigger of the, those big curls, they'll be out and about in September more than you would see them earlier in the year. So watch for them, and they will, I've seen them at Big Badlands Overlook, which is the eastern part of the park. When you first come in, there's an overlook there that is, look for them there. Look for more bighorn sheep in the middle of the park, where I said that was kind of more grassland, and it kind of is already worn down a little bit there. But when you travel the road, it's kind of the middle of the park. There's always bighorn sheep there. No, I don't know. It's just what you really want to see. And I think the color, it may be too early for fall color though. But you'll get some nice, golds and stuff like that.
Okay, that sounds great. I'm kind of, as you're flipping through, especially the landscape, I was kicking myself because I had an opportunity to go to the Badlands in 2019 and I opted to do something else. So I'm kind of thinking, well, and I'm glad I did something else, but now I need to revisit the thought of the Badlands. And I think Valerie is still in here because there was a lot of rested stuff and abandoned stuff in your presentation. So I think she was probably getting all excited too. So those are just always fun. What really surprised me was the amount of wildlife that you have those of. Because, when I think for myself, wildlife, winter, I'm going to Yellowstone. And now I have that whole question mark of, that's an interesting thought, because it never even occurred to me. So that's another thing that, all right, well, we have to we only have so many days of vacation, right? So I'm going to have to do some balancing. Let me look real quick to see if there were I know there are comments coming in, and I'll definitely share the chat line with you, but I want to make sure that I'm not missing any questions in here, and I'm not. So let me take the opportunity to thank you, Sandy. This was a very comprehensive. If you're going to the Badlands, you need to watch this because, if you're going to the Badlands and you're a photographer, this was a perfect start to finish, very comprehensive thing. Let me ask you, as a photographer, lenses, what if people are limited on how much they can bring and they're not really driving, they're flying, what are the two lenses that they probably shouldn't leave at home?
Well, some type of a landscape lens for sure, because you're going to need that. So something in the range of, I use a 24-105 most of the time. That's my Canon equipment. And then maybe 7200 with a 1.4 converter there. That's not heavy to carry, or something in that range for some of your wildlife. Because like I said, you can get close to a lot of it. Not the bison so much, but Yeah.
But they're big. They're big enough you can actually,
Right, right. You can get
you
those.
can fill a frame with them. All right,
Yeah.
Sandy, I want to thank you for again coming and sharing what you know and just I know there was a lot of work put into this presentation because when you travel, there's a lot of questions. And what I really appreciated was I'm not a map reader, but the time that you spent showing the map and giving me, and I think maybe other people in the room, a visual of, oh, okay, this is how much you can cover and some of the hot spots that you as a photographer don't pass up. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All
Thanks
right.
everybody for coming. I appreciate it.
All right. If you're on Instagram, you can find Sandy at SLZ Photo. And you can connect with her through her website, investinnature.org, and go ahead and sign up for her newsletter. So you can kind of keep in track on what workshops that she's got in on her schedule. All right, just a reminder for the next 2 weeks, June 28th and July 5th, we will not meet. And that's because I'm going to be traveling a bit off grid. But on July 12th, Valerie Hoffman is going to be here to be your guest host. She's going to have Turks and Caicos based seascape photographer Sharon Weil Hornstein here. And Sharon's going to be here to present Ride the Wave, a seascape photography primer. So please come back for that. And until next time, go out and create something beautiful. And I hope that we see you again soon.